What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Felicia and today I'm bringing you my very first horror movie review. I am so excited to be starting this series with you guys, you have no idea. And our very first review is gonna be the 1993 cult classic, Leprechaun.
The luck of the Irish is being packed and shipped to a little town in South Dakota whose luck may have just run out.
Leprechaun was released in 1993 and it was written and directed by Mark Jones, starring Warwick Davis and, believe it or not, Jennifer Aniston. I've seen a lot of horror movies in my day and somehow, someway, I had never seen any of the Leprechaun franchise. And there are many movies. There's like 7, 8? I don't know, but there's a lot. So I was very curious about like what started this whole craze, what started this weird cult following around this evil tiny leprechaun. And so I turned it on. The basic plot of this film is this Irish guy comes to America having stolen a bag of leprechaun gold. That leprechaun then follows him back to America and will do anything and kill anyone to get that gold back. So somehow, and because of spoilers, I won't tell you how, this guy traps this leprechaun in the basement for 10 years. That's about the first like 2 seconds of the film. Then, 10 years later, Jennifer Aniston shows up to this house with her dad that has apparently been abandoned for a while. There's a few other guys that show up, including a very cute child, that are there to clean up the house and renovate it and whatever else needs to be done. Somehow, during all this, the leprechaun gets out, the gold still on the property, and the leprechaun still out for blood. I won't tell you anything else because of spoilers, but that's basically all you need to know. Leprechaun is an interesting film because it sort of borders on the line between horror and comedy. This was actually Mark Jones' first feature film. Before this, he worked mostly in children's TV. He wrote for Yogi Bear and Scooby-Doo, and a little 2-season show called The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo. That's my last name. Coincidence? Probably. But Jones is ready to get into feature films and he figured a low-budget horror film was the best way to go. Now for a little info about how I'm going to rate these movies on this channel. So I have 3 categories I'm going to rate these films in. Number 1, the scare. How scary is it? Am I hiding under the covers? Do I have nightmares? Or am I chilling and after I see it I never think about it again? Number 2, gore. Whenever I recommend horror movies to people, a lot of times they want to know how much gore is in it. And that's because some people don't like blood, some people don't like guts, and they want to know before they see it if they're going to be able to handle it or not. And the last category is the cheese. Possibly my favorite category. There's nothing better than a little bad acting, a little bad special effects. And I think it's an important category because I want to know, am I watching Leprechauns in Space or am I watching Hostel? There's a big difference there. And so I want to know how cheesy it is. These 3 categories, the scare, the gore, the cheese, are all going to be rated on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being the least amount of it, 5 being the most. How did Leprechaun do? Let's take a look. First, the scare. I'm gonna have to give this a solid 1. At no point was I scared while watching Leprechaun. I was mostly leaning back on the couch laughing, to be perfectly honest with you. There was no point at which I was jumping or my blood was pumping or my heart was racing or I felt like I should throw a blanket over my head and cry. I was pretty chill the entire time, honestly, so I'm gonna have to give that a 1. Now, for the gore. I am gonna give the gore on this movie a 2, because even though a lot of the gore is pretty cheesy, they were very inventive with the gore, which I'll get to later. And also, there is a significant amount of blood in the film. And honestly, if you're queasy, you might want to know that before watching. And now, the cheese. I'm giving it a solid 4. And that's because I haven't seen Leprechaun in Space yet, and that I assume must be a 5. Even though this is a very cheesy film, there were some interesting horror moments, and so I'm not going to give it the full 5 on the cheese. I'm going to give it a solid 4. Now comes the section of the video where I'm going to give a fun fact. Something I found somewhere on the internet that I think is interesting about this film. And for Leprechaun, he's pretty funny. So when they were fundraising, they got lucky with a deal from Lucky Charms. So basically they had a deal where there's a scene in the movie where they would show a box of Lucky Charms, a little casual product placement, and that would be that. After they finished filming the scene, they sent it off to Lucky Charms, and Lucky Charms saw it and said, Oh no. Oh no. They had no idea that this is what the film was about. They had no idea this is how it's gonna be done. And they said, sorry, contract over. There's no way we can have this in the movie. You're gonna have to reshoot the scene. And as you may or may not know, filmmaking is extremely expensive. And on a low budget horror film, reshooting is a really rough deal. But they did it. They reshot the scene. They put a different box of unidentifiable Lucky Charms in the shot. And that was that. Or was it? The team was pretty mad about this. Basically, they added a line into the final battle scene where they have the young boy pull back his slingshot and say the line, "Hey, Lep, fuck you, Lucky Charms," and shoots the leprechaun with something I won't tell you for spoilers reasons. And now here we are to the last section of the video, which is called the spoilers. I'm gonna tell you guys what my favorite death scene is, what the scariest scene was for me, etc, etc. So, if you don't want any spoilers, pause the video, go watch Leprechaun, and then come back and finish it later. If you'd like to continue on, here we go. Okay, my favorite death scene is 100% the pogo stick scene. So basically, Warwick Davis, in slow motion, hops towards his newest victim. Oh, no! No! And then pogo sticks him to death while saying, ahem. This old Lep, he played pogo on his lung. It just doesn't get better than that, I don't think. I mean, it's pretty incredible. And then the scariest scene. And not that I think there's a lot of really scary scenes in this movie, but this is one I actually thought was interesting. So the Scooby Gang, if you will, all go to this nursing home to find the guy that trapped the leprechaun 10 years earlier. So they come into the room, the guy's turned around in his chair, there's some spooky lighting, some spooky sounds. They start talking to him, and the voice you hear is the voice of the actor from earlier in the film. And then who is it? Who does a slow, dramatic turnaround in a wheelchair? The leprechaun. I thought this was actually a pretty cool thing, the fact that the leprechaun can impersonate people. I thought that was a pretty cool idea that they should have utilized a little more in the film, but hey, I didn't write it, I didn't direct it. Alright guys, and that's it. That was my very first horror movie review. I had a good time, did you? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I put out, starting now, 2 videos a week, and one of those a week will be a horror movie review. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!